The Nimitz Carrier Strike Group joined Philippine and Japanese vessels in the South China Sea over the weekend, in what was Washington's largest show of force near Scarborough Shoal in years, following a series of maritime incidents between China and allied nations in the region. U.S. Navy aircraft carrier USS Nimitz CVN-68 and destroyers USS Wayne Meyer DDG-108, USS Gridley DDG-101, and USS Lenah Sutcliffe Higbee DDG-123 were joined by Japanese destroyer JS Akebono DD-108, Philippine Navy flagship BRP Jose Rizal FF-150, and frigate BRP Antonio Luna FF-151, and Philippine Coast Guard cutters BRP Melchora Aquino MRRV 9702 and BRP Cape San Agustin MRRV 4408 for a two-day joint patrol and exercises in the South China Sea. The gathering of 9 warships and patrol cutters was one of the largest maritime cooperative activities in recent years at the disputed Maritime feature, which has been a flashpoint of tensions between Beijing and Philippine forces. Participant in the exercise also spotted a C-2 Greyhound from Nimitz operating 200 nautical miles south of Scarborough Shoal. The warships and cutters practiced maritime domain awareness activities and anti-submarine warfare on Friday and Saturday, according to an Armed Forces of the Philippines release. In response, the People's Liberation Army Southern Theater Command claims it scrambled a bomber formation amid the drills. These engagements highlight not only the Philippines' steadfast resolve to defend its maritime domains, but also its shared commitment with partners to strengthen deterrence, enhance interoperability, and uphold freedom of navigation under a rules-based international order in the Indo-Pacific. According to U.S. Defense Department, that the exercise demonstrated a collective commitment to strengthen regional and international cooperation in support of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The official also noted that the activity proceeded safely and without disruption when queried about the Chinese bomber response. The patrol follows a pledge from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to re-establish deterrence in the South China Sea alongside his Philippine counterpart at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Defense Ministers Meeting Plus last month. Hegseth also announced a new task force to lead enhanced defense activities with the Southeast Asian treaty ally to counter Chinese coercion. The participating patrol vessels make up Manila's front line in the South China Sea and have frequently faced harassment from Chinese counterparts at Scarborough and St. Thomas Shoals. The most severe incident between the Philippines and China occurred August 11th with the collision of a Chinese destroyer and Chinese Coast Guard cutter near Scarborough. Shortly after the incident, U.S. warships conducted a freedom of navigation operation, and Beijing announced a national nature reserve over the shoal. Philippine leadership voiced concern over the assertion, which could allow China to maintain its presence 120 nautical miles west of Manila's most populous island. In September, Chinese forces began to push against Manila's fishing initiatives within the West Philippine Sea, a section of the South China Sea that the Philippines claims as its exclusive economic zone. A Philippine sailor was injured during one of these incidents. The recent joint patrol was the second time this year that an American carrier has participated in joint exercises with Philippine forces, with the first being in January with the Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group. France's Charles de Gaulle Carrier Strike Group held Paris's first joint patrol with Manila a month later. These exercises have been held between Manila and its partners in the South China Sea amid increased tensions with China. Incidents in recent years have seen Chinese military and militia forces ram, water cannon, and interdict Philippine forces at several disputed maritime features across the region. Nations such as the US, Japan, Australia, France, and India have since joined the patrols to demonstrate support for the Philippines. Beijing previously sortied warships and aircraft to monitor the joint patrols, which the country describes as provocative and tension-increasing activities. The People's Liberation Army, PLA, Southern Theater Command deployed a bomber formation, likely consisting of H-6 bombers, to monitor the weekend Carrier Strike Group drills. Chinese state media noted that these bombers, equipped with long-range anti-ship missiles, were meant to demonstrate Beijing's maritime strike capability. Washington deployed 2 B-1 bombers for a joint aerial patrol over the South China Sea 2 weeks ago with Philippine Air Force fighter jets in what Manila claims was an exercise that upheld the security and sovereignty of the Philippine skies and seas. China's use of military signaling to express displeasure with U.S. engagement with its allies and to assert its illegal territorial claims should be watched closely. It is growing increasingly clear that Beijing is seeking to use its military to dictate not only what land it controls, but also what activities its neighbors are allowed to undertake. China's response, coupled with its efforts to deny Manila access to Scarborough Shoal, underscores the value of the Nimitz's deployment. It is crucial that the U.S. continues to signal to both Beijing and the wider region that we are committed to supporting our allies in countering the PRC's expansionist agenda. The Armed Forces of the Philippines said it did not monitor Chinese bomber formations in the West Philippine Sea during a joint maritime exercise with the United States and Japan last week, contradicting a report by Chinese state media. A spokesperson for the PLA Southern Theater Command said in the report that China organized the bomber patrol amid the Philippines' so-called joint patrols with external forces. China issued a sharp warning after U.S., Philippine, and Japanese ships pushed through contested waters in the West Philippine Sea, challenging Beijing's sweeping maritime claims and spotlighting one of the world's most sensitive security flashpoints. The three nations carried out the coordinated patrol last week inside the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, a stretch of water Beijing claims as part of its South China Sea map, despite a ruling rejecting those assertions. The operation featured U.S. carrier movements and joint maneuvers meant to reinforce regional security. China accused the three allies of provoking instability but did not cite any specific incidents at sea. The White House views China's behavior as destabilizing, saying China's sweeping territorial and maritime claims in the South China Sea and its increasingly coercive actions to advance them at the expense of its neighbors continue to undermine regional stability and fly in the face of its prior commitments to resolve disputes peacefully. The official reaffirmed that Article 4 of the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty applies to armed attacks on Philippine forces, vessels, or aircraft, including its Coast Guard, anywhere in the South China Sea, adding that the U.S. and their allies are closely monitoring the situation in the South China Sea and remain committed to their alliance with the Philippines. The United States is and will always be a Pacific naval power. The Philippines has strengthened its partnerships amid repeated encounters with Chinese Coast Guard ships across the West Philippine Sea. Manila argues that joint patrols and closer coordination with the U.S. and Japan reinforce its rights inside its exclusive economic zone and deter further Chinese interference. The November 14th operation appeared to underscore that strategy by placing Allied ships, including a U.S. carrier group, inside waters China wants to control. The Philippines and U.S. have announced more than 500 planned military engagements for 2026, including expanded naval operations with partners such as Japan. U.S. and Philippine forces are set to hold more than 500 military-to-military activities throughout the coming year, a move the two countries claim will bolster deterrence in the Indo-Pacific. American and Philippine defense officials agreed on exercises, joint patrols, and other activities slated for 2026 during the Mutual Defense Board Security Engagement Board earlier this month in Hawaii. The series of annual meetings guide the course of U.S.-Philippine defense cooperation and have been held since 1958. This year's meeting comes on the heels of an enhanced relationship between Washington and Manila. It also coincides with the latter's tensions in the South China Sea and concerns of a potential Taiwan conflict spillover into the Luzon Strait. Military activities between the U.S. and the Philippines began to spike following Chinese maritime incidents in the Western Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone in 2022, prompting President Bongbong Marcos to reinvigorate Manila's previously shaky relationship with Washington. Since 2023, American and Filipino forces have expanded the scale of their military drills across the Southeast Asian archipelago. These moves, which include the deployment of missile systems that can reach mainland China and sink vessels in the Luzon Strait, drew ire from Beijing. The two countries also resumed and ramped up joint patrols in the South China Sea in the face of escalating spats between Philippine and Chinese forces over contested maritime features. The U.S.-Philippine military partnership continues to grow while addressing national defense capabilities and demonstrating a joint initiative for regional security and disaster response. Bilateral and multilateral maritime cooperative activities, MCAs, proved a key success this year. These events are essential in ensuring freedom of navigation and improving interoperability, reads a release on the meetings. While the agreed number of activities remains similar to the amount planned for 2024, the focus of U.S.-Philippine defense cooperation has shifted from internal to external defense amid regional concerns. Exercises such as Balikatan, Salaknib, and Kamandag have prioritized activities focusing on coastal defense, anti-ship tactics, area denial, and air defense in recent years, in line with Manila's shift. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and Secretary of National Defense Gilbert Teodoro reflected this shift during their meeting in March. The two defense secretaries agreed to prioritize defense industrial base cooperation, unmanned surface vessel deployments, special forces drills, and forward-deployed Marine Corps anti-ship missiles to the Luzon Strait. Washington has also expanded its presence in the Southeast Asian nation, setting up a new Marine Corps pre-positioning program and eyeing Subic Bay as a location for a regional munitions plant. Beijing has viewed the American deployments and investments as destabilizing to regional stability, prompting demarches from officials and counter-drills in the South China Sea. That plan, along with previous trilateral commitments outlined by Washington and Manila, signals continued cooperation at sea and has drawn repeated objections from Beijing.